Hi, my name is Heather Bakner, and I'm so excited to be here. I am an acupuncturist and a massage therapist. I've been practicing massage for 20 years and acupuncture for over 10 years. And I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you came to this talk. Thank you to the RVML. Thank you so much for coming. I am here to give you some information tonight for your upliftment and your empowerment. I believe that when we consciously empower ourselves, then we have the capacity to empower our relationships with others and to create really beautiful things together. After I finished acupuncture school, I had an eat, pray, love experience where a relationship that I had came to an end kind of painfully, but it catapulted me on a self-healing journey. Because of the pain I was experiencing, I asked the universe to give me a direct transmission of knowledge that would help to heal me. The Four Directional Model of energy management is what came out of this inquiry. It is a simple model of energy that you can use to inform your life and to empower your life. It can also be used as in between the treatments that I facilitate to kind of keep the work going. Indeed, there is an unseen realm of energy that is around us. It is often called the field. By understanding some fundamental truths to this realm, we can learn to manage our energy for greater health, harmony, and happiness. I call it a living model because it is ever growing as we continue to grow. In this talk, I'm going to present the background of how this model came to be. I'm going to talk about acupuncture and esoteric acupuncture, and then I'm going to talk about what the model is, and then I'm going to talk about some other focuses that branch off from the model. You're going to learn this model, and if it resonates with you or if parts of it resonates with you, you can absolutely use it and apply it to your life. My disclaimer is that, and I'm borrowing this statement, I am not the owner of the truth, but I am a servant of the truth. I present this model in the spirit of capital T truth, but I also recognize that we all have our own little-case t truths, which must be acknowledged and respected. And so without further ado, the Four Directional Model of Energy Management, or the energy of being. Yay! Woo! So, as I said, I wanted to give my clients a system that they could use in between their treatments to keep the work going. Also, I was combining the practice of acupuncture with the work of Mikio Sankey and Barbara Brennan, who I will talk about very soon. Acupuncture is a 25,000-year-old system of medicine based on the observation of nature. It is a complete system of medicine. It involves placing pins or needles in specific points along the body, along energetic meridians. Acupuncture also incorporates herbal medicine and herbal formulas into the treatments. The fundamental concept behind acupuncture is yin and yang. You've probably all seen this symbol. And yin and yang basically stands for light and dark. It is the light side of the mountain and the shadowed side of the mountain. It is opposites. So yang is very masculine, very energetic, very outward. And yin is dark and receptive, feminine. And in Chinese medicine, they say the highest yang turns to yin, and the highest yin turns to yang. This is another concept behind acupuncture. These are the 5 elements. And there is a generating sequence, which are the green arrows. And there's the over-controlling sequence, which are the red arrows. And this is how I think of it. Wood burned by fire makes ash, which is earth. When you dig into the earth, you can find metal. And if you have a piece of metal, water will condense upon metal, and then water feeds wood. So wood is the mother of fire, the mother of earth, and so forth. Whereas wood will over-control earth, earth will over-control water, water over-controls fire, and so on. In Chinese medicine, we take what is called the pulses. This is a way that we make a diagnosis. So when you come in, we will take our 3 fingers and place it on your hand in these positions, the Sun, the Guan, and the Chi. And by reading the quality of the pulse, we are able to determine what might be going on in your body and what points might be beneficial for you and what formulas might be beneficial for you. The heart, liver, and kidney are represented on the left hand, and the lung, spleen, and kidney are represented upon the right hand. There are many pulses, and here is just a chart kind of showing many of them. They can be floating on a top level, they can be in a middle level, or they can be on a deep level. They can be rapid or they can be slow. Some common pulses are wiry, choppy, floating, hollow, and depending on the pulse that your body indicates, it determines what diagnosis you might have and how we would treat you. Likewise, we also love to look at the tongue. So we're always like, can you please stick your tongue out? Ah. And we look under your tongue too. And different colors of the tongue also represent different diagnoses and give us an indication of what we should do for your personal treatment. So an example, this red tongue with the red at the tip around the edges indicates heat, whereas a scallop tongue or a tongue with teeth marks can have qi deficiency or spleen qi deficiency, and a purple tongue will often indicate blood stasis or blood stagnation. So that just gives you some examples of the tongue. And then the other thing that acupuncturists use are meridians. So you can see that there are these lines of energy running up and down the body, out through the limbs, across the torso, across the back. These organs correspond to, or these meridians correspond to organs. So I really like this picture. This shows the lung meridian, and it shows its internal innervation. It actually starts around the umbilicus, comes and connects with the large intestine, rises up into the lung, into the throat, and then out 6 Sun from the midline at lung 1. And a Sun is a thumb's width. And this is a unit of measurement that we use to find the points. So 3 fingers width are 2 Sun, and 4 fingers width are 3 Sun. So we can use that to find different points on each person's body. And you can see that the lung meridian has 10 points that come out and end at the thumb. And then I put up the next meridian, the large intestine meridian. And the large intestine meridian starts at the index finger and comes up the arm to the back to C7, to the front again, and then you see the internal innervation going through the lung and into the large intestine. And then it continues up across to the other side of the nose. And there are 2 meridians, so they mirror each other. The 12 main meridians mirror each other on each side. So there's one on the right side and one on the left.
These lines track the nervous system as well?
So that is a good question. They have tried to determine, do the meridians track muscles? Do they track nerves? Do they track the cardiovascular system? There's no direct correlation, but they tend to follow that. But what someone said, I like this definition, they go into the in-between spaces. But it is shown that needling certain points will will connect with the nervous system, certain nerves and nerve pathways, and also certain muscles. So, like for instance, if someone is coming in with sciatica, I needle the gallbladder meridian because it goes through the piriformis and through this point and down here. And so opening up that channel can relieve that stagnation along that channel and that pain. Okay, yes, so I thought I would draw this up for you. Lung, large intestine, stomach, spleen, heart, small intestine, bladder, kidney, pericardium, sand jowl, gallbladder, and liver. These are the 12 organs and the 12 main meridians. And this is the order of them. These are yin and these are yang. And they also follow a clock. So from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., your lung is the most active. From 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., your large intestine becomes active. About the time you eat breakfast, your stomach is coming into play. And then from 9 to 11, your spleen, which helps with digestion, comes into play. And then from noon to 1, the heart. And so there are certain times of the day that these meridians are more active, these organs are more active. And you can also see that the organs correspond to the 5 elements: metal, earth, fire, water, and wood. And there's actually 4 organs that are in the fire category. And the triple burner, also called Sanjiao, is not an actual organ, but it's actually the lower burner, the middle burner, and the upper burner. And then I thought I'd put this picture up. This is auricular acupuncture or ear acupuncture. So you can see that the whole body is represented on the ear. The head down here, as we see the tongue and the face area. The neck would be here. And then up here is abdomen, and out here are the heels and the toes. So ear acupuncture is very good to help with addiction, and it's very good to help with stress and to induce sleep. The benefits of acupuncture. Great for treating pain and discomfort in the body. I work for a chiropractor, so many people are coming in with various types of pain in their arms, in their shoulders, in their necks, and acupuncture is excellent for that. It is also really good for pre and post surgery. Getting acupuncture before your surgery and after your surgery is really helpful. One time I needled a woman who had surgery on her feet. I needled her left leg, but not her right leg. And when I saw her later, her left foot looked just better, like it was more in alignment than the right foot. It also can clear the mental, emotional, and spiritual fields, so it has a great psychological benefit. I was just reading today that acupuncture is really good for conditions like PTSD. And I'm very interested in this aspect, psychological benefit of acupuncture, and we're going to dive deeper into that later on in the talk. So when I was in acupuncture school, I discovered this amazing book. One lady in my cohort had it, called Esoteric Acupuncture, by this wonderful man, Mikio Sankey. And what he did basically was combine sacred geometry with the needling sequences. And also in his book, I discovered the chakra sequences. Here's Mikio Sankey. I like to call him the ascended master who's incarnated right now. He's a really sweet guy. I met him at a workshop in Colorado. And here is his book, his volume 1 of Esoteric Acupuncture. The other lady who really influenced me is Barbara Brennan. Barbara Brennan was a physicist who worked for NASA. She had HSP, or higher sense perception. She was able to perceive the human energy field, or the aura, and she scientifically studied it. She wrote 3 books: Hands of Light, Light Emerging, and Core Light Healing. All very amazing books, and I think this library probably has them. So Barbara Brennan introduced me to the concept that it's not the physical body that's creating the energy body, but actually the other way around. It's this energy body that is condensing down into the physical body. She actually claims that at the root of all of us is this concept, this thing called the core star. I also call it the core essence. I also call it the quantum field generator. It is this energy, this force in all of us that's co-creating our existence. This level of energy comes up through the haric level. The hara is also called the dantian. It is 3 fingers width below the navel. It also comprises of the soul seat, which is at the hollow of the throat, and the ID point, which is above the head kind of chakra. And she claims that when these 3 points are clear and in alignment, we are walking in our divine purpose. And then the next layer from that is the aura, and the aura has 7 levels. And then from this layer comes the physical body. So in the Barbara Brennan model, there are 7 levels of the human energy field. The etheric body, this is where the meridians live. They live in this layer. The emotional body, the 2nd level. The mental body, the 3rd level. These are structured levels. This is a plasmic level. Plasma is like smoke or water, and it flows and it can change color and shape. The 4th level of the field, the astral body, is a plasmic level. The 5th level is the etheric template, another structured level. The 6th level, or the celestial body, I call it the dandelion puff. I think it's connected to the core star. And then the etheric template level, if you've ever heard of Carlos Castaneda, he talked about the egg that surrounds our body. And I believe that is what he was perceiving and talking about.
I've seen the machine that, like at trade shows, that can show you an image of your aura.
Yes.
Which one would this be? Which level? Maybe it was called Chameleon or something like that?
Yes, so the aura can tend to have a color or colors and a form, and there are devices that can photograph this. This is a little bit different. Let me go to the next slide and I'll see if I can explain how she conceptualizes it. So here are the chakras. We have crown chakra, that's one aspect, coming out from the central channel. And the central channel is this energetic current that lives along our spine. And then these chakras are funnels that channel energy into and out of this channel. And so there's the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the 3rd eye, and the crown. And here is the secret. The first chakra, the root chakra, corresponds to the 1st level of the field. The 2nd chakra corresponds to the 2nd level of the field, and so forth. So what I started noticing is I started using these chakra sequences on my clients. This is the root chakra sequence. As you see, it is a pattern called the Tree of Life, comprised of 10 points, and it's needled over the sacrum, starting at L5, the lumbar 5 vertebra. And what I noticed was, well, what Mickey Osanki says is, this sequence will not only clear, restructure that chakra, it also clears the corresponding level of the field.
You know the sequence then? Like for the bottom up, so to speak? Or?
Boom! Whoops! Oh wait! Show what I did!
I'm too excited.
Too excited. Let's see, can you push play again? Play. Okay, this is what I do. So here's the 2nd chakra. The 2nd chakra sequence is needled over the kidney points. And it clears the 2nd level of the field, the emotional body. Likewise, The third chakra, the solar plexus chakra, clears the third level of the field. The fourth chakra clears the astral body. The fifth chakra clears the etheric template level. The sixth chakra, this actually has an extra point right here, clears that sixth level. And then the seventh chakra sequence clears the seventh level. So what was happening is, as I was working and putting these sequences up on my clients, I was noticing that something was happening. Something else was happening. And I'll talk about some case studies to kind of illuminate that. So once again, there's the Brennan model of the 7 levels of the human energy field, which correspond to the chakras and can be cleared using these sequences. And the reason, here I'll add this too, the reason why the sequences are working. So if I needle a sequence like this, what I'm really needling is this. The 2-dimensional pattern lends to a 3-dimensional pattern because a triangle is actually a spiral in that it can go from the second to the third dimension. And because you're needling it on this etheric body, there's a kind of like a gateway from this body into these higher bodies because we're connected, in all the dimensions from the physical up and beyond. And so the sequences have this capacity to clear and affect those parts of the energy field. And then what I noticed is happening is as you clear these chakras, you're clearing this central channel, and it also starts to clear that hara line. And Miki Osenki talks about the antakarana, and the antakarana is our connection to source, the above the crown chakras. So then that starts happening. And then what happens is that the client can start emanating from the core star. That clarity, that pure essence, we can feel that inside of ourselves, that pure, innocent essence that is ever expanding, ever flowing, that can start to emerge out and into your physical life. So what I recommend to people who receive the chakra sequences, before we start, it's really good to understand this. This can initiate a powerful clearing for you in your life. So I recommend that my clients write down their intentions. Maybe there's some things they want to clear and let go of, and some things they want to bring into their life. Make sure that you rest after your treatments. No heavy lifting, avoid stress, stay really grounded. I recommend if you feel tired to lay down and ground. Understand that your body will go through a clearing and you will see and feel the results of this clearing. There can be a healing reaction, especially within the first or second session. And a healing reaction is where your body actually feels a little worse, but then it starts to feel much better. And then I also recommend to practice the Four Directional Model and other energetic hygiene techniques. A client of mine allowed me to use an intention she wrote. This was her intention. I release all toxic love patterns from my life. I wish to manifest unconditional love for myself. I wish to heal. I am enough. And so here are some of the case studies. I worked on an artist once. She had a healing reaction in her first and second treatment, but after the next couple of treatments, I started seeing all this art appear on her walls. And she bought this computer and this stylus, and she just really dialed in her business and was really having a lot of creative flow. I worked on a man who was building his house. This one was really interesting. I got up to like the 4th or 5th chakra, and he just, for some reason or another, we just hadn't seen each other for the next treatments. And he kept telling me, my house isn't done, I haven't quite finished it. And I just kept thinking, I've got to finish his sequences. And as soon as I did, His house was finished. He finished his house. He got it done. I worked with a woman who was calling in a new relationship. There was a man that she was really interested in. So we worked on releasing some old relationships. And I coached her on the model and worked on her. And she ended up traveling around the world with this man. And then they settled down and had a child together. The woman who wrote the intentions, she is cleansing of the toxic relationship, and she is stepping into her life path and goals. She just applied to like 5 or 6 different jobs and is about to graduate and kind of knows where she wants her life to go. And then I have treated people pre and post surgery. And I've also treated people with disease, and they have become disease-free. And I've also used it to help people prepare for pregnancy. So it's really a panacea. The chakra sequence really works with your body and your situation, your unique situation, to really up-level you energetically and get you in alignment. And you do it in silence. You can just come in and relax and meditate, have these sequences done. I do recommend that people maybe have a therapist that they're seeing, if things are coming up, but it's really a gentle way in a lot of ways to move energy and clear energy. All right, so now we're going to dive into the Four Directional Model of Energy Management. Are you ready? Is everything making sense? And feel free to write down any questions that you have. We will address those. All right, so the first direction of my model, I call it sealing. And sealing is knowing that you have a boundary and you really only want what is serving your highest purpose to come into this boundary. I also call sealing the alpha and the omega of the practice. So for instance, when I work on someone, I use my imagination. Your imagination and your intention is really super powerful. So I intend that I am sealed, my client is sealed, and the space that we're working in has a seal. And that just keeps what's mine on into me and what's theirs with them, and it keeps the space protected. A common seal people like to use is the bubble of white light. Another way to seal is by saying a prayer. Oftentimes when I enter the freeway, I say, Archangel Michael, please protect me. The next direction of the model is grounding and centering. Grounding is connecting your energy to earth energy, a grounding cord, rooting down. And centering is aligning your energy through the center in between heaven and earth. So grounding is making that nice connection to the earth. Going barefoot on the earth is a great way to ground. That's why walking on the beach is so nice. It's very grounding. And then centering is coming to that center and being in that center. And so I can draw some pictures here too. So we have sealing. Sealing is making that bubble, knowing that I have a boundary, and it's good to have a boundary. And then grounding and centering. Grounding is coming down into the earth, and centering is centering with the heaven. Let me go back here. And then the third direction of the model is called flowing. So a system in a state of flow is also in a state of health. Athletes who are winning the gold medal, the silver medal, they are all in a state of flow when they are doing this. Flow is the opposite of stagnation. And in Chinese medicine, there's a term, qi and blood stagnation create pain. So what we're trying to eliminate is stagnation, and you do that with flow. So you can think of a river or a stream that has a nice flow, clearing away any debris. And then I put this toroidal field around the body, and when that toroidal field is flowing and in motion, it contributes to a state of health. And then the fourth direction of the model is clearing or pruning. So clearing is kind of has three parts: the clearing, restructuring, and filling. And I put up portal of clearing and portal of filling. So one thing I like to do is when I make my seal and I'm clearing someone, I don't just want to throw what I'm clearing, onto myself or onto the earth. Instead, I open up what I imagine a portal of clearing, like that suction thing they put in your mouth at the dentist, and that's just going to cleanly and clearly take away whatever is not serving that situation. And then I like to do a portal of filling, so after an area has cleared, it can restructure and then it can fill again with fresh energy. And I call it pruning because it's similar to pruning a tree. When we take away the dead branches or the branches, we can kind of make it have a nice shape and bring it to greater health. So, what are some results of energetic healing and clearing? You can heal physical conditions, you can experience emotional healing, you can clear anxiety and stress, you clear the aura and balance the chakras, you can cut cords that no longer serve you, and you can heal and clear blocks and negative energy that may be holding you back. So, when I started thinking about this model, I realized, well, okay, if this is working for myself, shouldn't it also work with other people too? Why, yes, it probably should. So this is where personal, platonic, and procreative connection come in. So the personal connection is the connection that you have with yourself. It's all those connections, like from your heart to your gut, from your gut to your feet, from your heart to your head. Those would all be considered personal connections. A platonic connection I define as a loop. So energy consciously goes from A to B and B to A, and subconsciously goes from A to B and B to A, which makes a loop. And then there is the procreative connection, the infinity loop. And the infinity loop, so when two people unite the central channels, the energy then goes up that person's channel and up that person's channel simultaneously. Here, let me make this a little clearer. So the procreative connection between two people, I can use another color, the infinity loop. And it has a crossing point right there, which I call the point of creation. And this point is so powerful, it can create a whole other incarnated being. The infinity loop is a sacred infinite connection. We share the infinity loop with our mom, our dad, our mom, and we all came from an infinity loop. And we share it with our family, and we share it with any intimate partner that we have. And you can see that that point of creation is really powerful. It's a very concentrated point of energy. And so whatever quality of energy we're feeding down this line is also what's going to manifest. We also talked about the professional connection. So think about the Beatles. They had a platonic connection, but through a procreative loop, they created their music. So it can also kind of work that way too. So what happens is that Because we live in the third dimension, I call this dimension the world of dirt and friction. You know, it's like, it's why we can drive, but it's also why we can crash our car. So, so unfortunately, what will happen is that in the field, there will be tangles, blockages, and core wounds. So we all have experienced that, you know, we're in our infinity loop and then, like, oh, what's going on? Now there's drama. There's trauma and drama. So this will probably be a whole other talk, but I'm going to touch on it briefly. So reclaiming the core essence by honoring the core wound. So reclaiming the core essence by honoring the sacred core wound, by honoring the tangles and working with the tangles. And how do we do that? So basically what happens is that we have these beautiful core creative energies, but when we experience trauma, there's kind of a split in the field and we get wounded. And the way Barbara Brennan, I learned this from Barbara Brennan, she defines it that these core energies are surrounded by a wound and surrounded by a defense. So what happens is that whenever this defense is triggered, there's an emotional reaction. And so the ego will, or the personality will try to avoid these wounds. And these wounds kind of live in your field, and the personality will kind of start to form around a wound, which is blocking or trapping that core essence. So here we have the creative process blocked. This client has a block in her third chakra. She needs the chakra sequence. And so now what happens a lot of times, unfortunately, I think in some therapies, is that the wound, we're talking about the wound, we're trying to clear it, but what happens is that we're starting in this imbalanced homeostasis. And then the wound is just kind of being reinforced, it's being recompacted into the field. And that's why, you know, people are in a lot of vicious cycles. The world is in a vicious cycle because the world is in a wound we aren't letting that essence come out. So this does apply on the worldwide stage as well. And here's just some more pictures. So imbalanced homeostasis, I'm just fine, you know, but then you're triggered, the energy hits the defense, and out comes this emotional, irrational reaction. You're yelling, you're screaming, you're cowering in a corner or whatever it is, and you're feeling that hard pain. And then if it's not, if space isn't held for it in a loving way, then it can reinforce the wound. This always happens to me. And then the energy consciousness of the wound increases. But if we can hold ourselves compassionately with unconditional love, a beautiful thing can happen. That hard pain can turn to soft pain. There's nothing I could have done. There's forgiveness, there's compassion. And when that soft pain, something happens, the wound opens. And that core energy comes out. And what I've learned is that we can take wounds out of that hard, contracted place and open them. And we can start to live. The wound may not leave, but we can be in this open place where we're encouraging that beautiful essence to come out and reintegrate with our current selves. So psychological processing, how to make it work. Two amazing books that I have just discovered recently are one, Letting Go by David Hawkins. He basically says that we're not going to let go of the story by telling the story. We go to the emotions under the story, and by letting go of those emotions, lovingly and compassionately, and continuing to let go of those emotions, we can actually free ourselves from the wound. He also wrote this amazing map of consciousness where he was using muscle testing, and he muscle tested all of these qualities. And so as you can see, shame, guilt, apathy, grief are very low on the spectrum: fear, desire, anger, and pride. But once we hit this line at 200, we have courage. And that is where muscle testing will be accurate, is if you have to be in that state. And then you have neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, and peace up to enlightenment. And so what's happening is that the wound is in this area, and that's the friction. But by actually allowing ourselves to feel that pride and anger and working with that to release that and let that go, we can rise up into higher levels of and qualities of being. Another amazing system is Internal Family Systems by Richard Swartz. This guy is doing psychotherapy correctly. And the reason why is because it's non-pathologizing, and it's recognizing that we have these parts, and these parts can be burdened by these heavy emotions. And when I'm blended with a part that's burdened, I'm going to act in an aberrant way. And what he calls the core wound are the exiles, the vulnerable younger parts of us that are holding trauma, pain, fear, and shame. And they are shut away to keep them safe, but also to stop overwhelming the system. And then the other parts are managers, which say, okay, you've got to do this, you've got to dress like this, look like this, think like this, so that part, we don't want to trigger that exile over there. And then the dangerous ones are the firefighters. When they go into substance abuse, binging, self-harm, and suicidal thoughts. But what happens is when we know that every individual has a delicate and intricate inner psychology, there's a way to approach that and dialogue with that so that the person reaches their self. And when the person comes into that self, that grounded and centered self, the qualities of calmness, curiosity, creative, clear, connected, compassionate, this self will actually start to manage. The person will start to self-manage themselves and start to work with their own parts. So I'm really jazzed about this internal family systems therapy, because it's just dovetailing into, like we said, really going to the root of the issue. In Chinese medicine, they say, go to the root, not the symptom. It's going to the root and clearing it out from there. I threw this slide in here. This is a dark-looking slide, but this guy wrote a very interesting book. Sometimes if people are burdened with a problem, it can come from entities or thought forms. And so he wrote, in his book, he has a method called the ISIS method, where he will question the client to the point where they realize there's something in them that's not them. And then he has a very beautiful clearing method in one of the later chapters in his book. And he's the one who helped me realize the portal of cleansing and the portal of filling. So I thought I would throw that slide in there too. So energetic hygiene. When we practice the Four Directional Model, we are practicing energetic hygiene. Just like taking a shower. You can't just take one and expect to stay clean. It's something we have to practice every day, or maybe even multiple times a day. And you can use your intention to practice. And as a practitioner, I have found that using energetic hygiene is very important when I'm practicing on other people. It's very important that I seal myself and that I seal the client, and that one beautiful, simple way of clearing is through the breath. Breathing in the fresh energy and breathing out what's not serving you. I find it also important to remember that portal of cleansing. It really helps the energy stay more clear when I'm doing a treatment. Filling the body with light, calling your energy back, releasing old energy, and setting energy boundaries should be a daily practice like showering and getting dressed. Here's some good daily energy hygiene essentials: proper sleep, a gratitude practice, drinking good water, stretching, doing cardio if you can, read something for enjoyment, address emotional addictions and negative thoughts, doing breath work, meditating, eating healthy foods. And then I put up some, and this one even mentions some in the model: the grounding, the shielding or sealing. I call it sealing because it's a little less defensive. Clearing, using a selenite wand, that's very clearing. Energy work, time in nature, grounding. So it's really not, it's kind of a universal model. You'll find it reflected in many different practices. So now we'll go into another subset off of the model, and that is the foundation of relationship. So we're coming back here to the personal or the platonic connection and the procreative connection. How do we create healthy relationships with others? What do we do? I like to talk about the foundation of agreement. A foundation of agreement can create an empowered relationship. It is established through clear communication. Clear, congruent communication is very strengthening to relationship. It's established over time through feedback loops. When we have compatibility with someone, there is a greater chance for agreement. Compromise is when we sacrifice and have pain, but workability is when we co-create agreement. So we don't really want to compromise in our relationships. Instead, we want to create workability. And then be aware of the cycle of connection, rupture, remorse, reevaluation, and repair. So in connection, there will be friction, there will be rupture, there will be tangles. But if we can agree that we will work through those things and how we will work through those things, we can repair. Here's a way to create a connection of agreement. Let's say you feel attracted to someone. You're like, oh, I just really want to be close to that person. Well, you can initiate contact. I feel drawn to you. You could even say, I feel attracted to you. And then you could say, and I'm wondering if we could connect and see if we're compatible as friends. And then if you feel that you're compatible as friends, you can move to another step, such as having more activities together. The 3-month rule is basically waiting 3 months before, well, this one says it's a 90-day trial period where a couple tests out a relationship to see if they're compatible. You learn about each other's likes and dislikes and possible red flags. And at the end of the 3 months, you can discuss if you want to pursue a longer-term relationship. And pacing it slowly, the 3-6-9-month rule. This means no big decisions about a relationship or intimate relations until you've been seeing each other for 3, 6, or 9 months. And it's safer to stick with 6 or 9 months. I'm going to go to this slide because I like this slide because it actually puts love at the top. And what's love sitting on? Communication, understanding, acceptance, respect, and trust. Unfortunately, attraction and sex and intimate relations doesn't necessarily create foundation for a healthy relationship. It actually involves other things to be set in place first. And I brought in this book. This was a really cool little book that I found that has the personal connection, the professional, the family, which would be the procreative. And it had the loops. I was so excited. There's the loops. In true communication, both transmitter and receiver end up with an image held in common. And this book is so good. It has, in just these short little pages, it talks about independence, which is that's being grounded and centered and sealed, flowing and clearing my field. Dependence is where you're kind of leaning on somebody else. Codependence is when you're kind of both leaning on each other. And then there's interdependence. An energized or empowered relationship is a blending of the experiences of independence and interdependence. And then finally,
Sorry, what's the title of it?
this book is called Energizing Relationships by Amaya Ray. And yeah, this is a great little book. And it has blocks in it too. So she has the blocks and blockbusters. So she talks about the tangles and the stagnation as well. And she talks about these different levels, saying that if I'm at this level, but you're at this level, we may not have as clear of communication than if we're both at the same level. And I'd love to teach this whole book. It's amazing. So that could be a whole other project. And then I put up this chart. There's a sweet couple in our community who used this chart to create a foundation of agreement in their relationship. And it says, to form your relationship, you can pick any number of items from any number of platters, take a huge helping or just a scoop. The dish the two of you hold is your relationship. Remember, you must agree together on what is in it. No sneaking items in without the other knowing, or there will likely to be conflict or disappointment later. Also, it's your dish, so if you decide to change what you want, that's okay. And so we can look at some of the things that create agreement. Domestic. Are we going to share a home? Are we going to cook together? Creative. Are we going to do creative things together? Music, yoga, comedy, acrobatics, dance. Life partners, are we wanting to go the long term together? Romantic, how's that going to be? Caregiver, companionship, co-caregiver? Are we going to be monogamous? Are we going to be polyamorous? Do you want to have children or not? Money tangle. Money tangle is a big one. How are we going to handle the finances? How are we going to do emotional support? How frequently are we going to be together? Social partners, are we going to share friends? What's our power dynamic? How are we going to work with that? And I made copies of this sheet if anyone wants a copy of those. I figured people might want a copy of this one. So the conclusion. The practice of esoteric acupuncture and chakra sequences can allow for an effective clearing and up-leveling of a client's energy field. This clearing can be strengthened by being aware of and practicing the Four Directional Model of energy management: sealing, grounding and centering, flowing, and clearing or pruning. The client can become more aligned energetically with themselves, there should be an S there, by creating a more positive foundation for themselves, and this can create greater alignment in outside relationships, personal, platonic, and procreative, by increasing the ability to create foundations of agreement or win-win. And then this is the symbol of my business, Sacred Spaces Healing Arts. And as you can see, here's the grounding and centering. And then here's flowing. And then there's the sealing. And then the white lines are sort of the pruning or the clearing. And there we go. There it is. There I am. Yay, thank you so much, everyone, for your attention. And does anyone have any questions, comments?
Yeah, the beginning slides, you mentioned the kind of waveforms or pulses, maybe you called them. How do you measure those?
The waveforms or the pulses?
Yeah.
So my particular higher sense perception, I can perceive some things, and what I can do is I call it tracking. So I can be with someone, and I could put my hands on them, and I can kind of track the meridians. And by using my intention, I can create a flow by even just speaking the meridians. And I can see when people receive acupuncture, there's a subtle opening. They're like a flower. And it's not like I see it, but I can feel it. I kind of have, I think they call it, I can feel things or just know things. I have clairsentience. So I can sometimes just know things by being near someone. And I actually even kind of turned that down a little bit because sometimes I don't need to know the whole story and I have to protect myself energetically or seal myself energetically. But yes, I do have perception of that. And yes, you might be very interested to read Barbara Brennan's books and some of the scientific studies that she used a device called the squid, the superconducting infometer. And she and a couple other scientists were scientifically examining the aura. And she wrote, her books would be you would like to check those out. And there's another one by Elaine McTaggart called The Field. That would be another really good one to check out too. Because yes, we have energy. We are electromagnetic. And we actually have two toroidal fields, one around our heart, and that field, it can extend out to 40 feet. And then we have the field around our central channel. And we have a light body. I learned that from Drunvalo-Melchizedek, the ancient secret of the flower of life. And this light body is a living light body, and I am in it, and it can be programmed. So clearing is important because I might be carrying programs that aren't really serving me in that electrical field. And I know Nikki, she does breath work. And the breath work is something that can be used to clear that electromagnetic part of the field. And then you can call in other programs into that electromagnetic part of the field, like I'm going to be resistant to geopathic stress. I'm going to program my field to be resistant to electromagnetic frequencies. I'm going to program my field to be grounded and safe when I'm moving through an environment. Yes, like that device you talked about that was taking pictures of the aura, there are ways to measure these phenomena.
What's a Vega machine? I saw that some kind of biofeedback machine. Is that related to this kind of work?
Yes, so many people now are using devices like the Skio, the Healy, the Spooky, and these Rife machines, what they are doing is they're biofeedback machines, so they have a capacity to read my field, and they can find places where the energy is resisted, the stagnation, and these machines can translate or diagnose that information, and then they can also dial in a frequency to apply to neutralize that area or to enervate that area. So that's why they are biofeedback. The body is a self-harmonizing mechanism. The body, I call it like tuning a guitar. So acupuncture is like tuning the guitar. And when you put the pins in, the body, the reason why you lay there for like 30 minutes, because 30 minutes is about the length of time the energy runs through all the channels, the body will tune itself. The reason why we're out of tune is because we're not really grounded a lot. We're exposed to a lot of toxins and electromagnetic frequencies. We're caught in wounds, and it takes us out of that homeostatic place, out of balance. And that's why many of these practices help you come back into balance. Did that make sense? Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Okay, you said that the acupuncture heals your emotions and helps you get rid of beliefs that aren't serving you. Does it do it on its own, or do you gotta like be able to?
So that goes back to an earlier slide. So let's say I'm working on the second chakra. The second chakra is the place where I connect to another. And it's also that second level of the field. So let's say maybe I've had a divorce. I was in an intimate relationship. Well, that infinity loop is still there. And if there is no clearing around it, you can feel the effects of that. But there are ways to clear the infinity loop or aspects of the infinity loop so that that level of the field becomes clearer. When I clear an infinity loop, it's almost like it's plugged into source. So the first thing I do when I clear an infinity loop is I unplug it. So it's still there. It's just like it's turned off. So if I'm actively engaged in an infinity loop, it's like a neon sign that's on. And let's say that that relationship has come to a completion. Well, first I unplug it. And then what I do with the infinity loop is I don't cut them. That's why I say clearing. You have to be careful with cutting, but cutting is useful. So you bundle up the infinity loop and then you remove it in its entirety. And often what's being removed, so there are two kinds of connections. There are cords of connection and cords of attachment. So attachment are the ones that hook or drag you down, but cords of connection uplift you. You want to keep the cords of connection, but clear the cords of attachment. Did that answer the question? So
I've done chord. I've never done paying attention if it's a good chord or a bad chord. If it's a bad chord, I wouldn't be working on it.
yeah, these are like subtle differentiations that can be important. So what happens is that like the one client who cleared herself of a toxic relationship, she's actually on her third chakra sequence. She really resonated with the work, and so she started receiving the work, and then we would talk about what she was experiencing and the changes that she was going through. I'm just going to look at the time just to make sure that we're staying on track with time. We are. And so that's why the intention is really important. But if you receive, let's say you decide to receive the chakra sequences, you will have some kind of clearing because the geometry of the sequences are going to influence the field and the body, and they sort of do an automatic kind of clearing without even having to say or do anything.
So a chakra treatment, is that in one session or is that multiple sessions?
Good question. I like to do it in multiple sessions. It's better to do them one at a time. I can do them in groups. I would do 1, 4, and 7, 2 and 5, and 3 and 6, and then maybe like an intro session. But I think it can really be beneficial to do them one at a time and do them like every other week or even once a month. And then allow that to clear and process that and then have the next one. And then there was one client that I did them all on at once. It was because of his case history. And it was a lot. It pretty much, I guess you would say it can stimulate a kundalini. And what happened with him is I gave him the treatment, all 7. It was like 100 needles or something. It was really intense. And the next week he was like, Heather, look what I've done. And he had set up a whole glass blowing thing in his living room. He was like, kaboom, but he was kind of, I would say that he was in a heightened energy state. So he was a bit manic. So you don't want to over amp a client's system. You want harmony, you want balance, you want the homeostasis. So that's why it's better to sort of work through them. And that's why I say to do the energy model or do the four directional model. You want to get the sequence and keep grounding and centering and keep that flow going, because it's going to really open that central channel. And if it's blocked, you're going to have results of a clearing. But it's like that healing reaction. Some things might have to go so that the good things, what's really in alignment with you, really comes in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Heather, is the needling shallow, kind of like Japanese, or is it more deep like Chinese?
I guess I use a thin needle, and I just do like just a regular depth. It's just the indicated depth for that point, whether it's half a soon or a soon, and also with the person's body. Yeah. Most people, a big question people ask is, does it hurt? And usually it does not, but occasionally there's a renegade point where if there's stagnation, it'll be like, ow! But if it hurts, let me know, and I either need to adjust that pin or take it out. Nothing. Yeah, I remember that. You got, it's very gentle. I would say I use very thin gauge of needle. I do what I call American style, a painless style. Because we don't want pain, we want to be free of pain.
I was gonna add an anecdote to that I got acupuncture from Heather, and I actually did experience a tiny bit of pain, but it was in the spots of my body that coordinated with where I was gonna get surgery, which was my left shoulder, which was what was really in pain. And so I felt the points, and then she, like at the end of, I didn't say anything, and at the end of the massage, she's like, you might feel pain in this spot and this spot. And I was like, wait, what the heck? That is exactly where I felt it. So she knew the different parts of the body that are connected to the shoulder point, and it happened to be exactly what was
That's another one of my higher sense perceptions. I can feel on the body, and I know that where my finger goes, that's the point. That's usually the point that needs to go. And I have that sense of the body. And I bet Ari does too. He's an acupuncturist also, has that sense of sort of like, sometimes a client will come in and I'll be like, I'm going to do this point on them. And so there is, I think studying acupuncture for me definitely opened up my higher sense perception, because you're studying these invisible channels, that are linking into this unseen realm, and it's really real. I call it the field is real. And so that's why when we practice energetic hygiene and keep ourselves clean and clear, then that will reflect into the world around us. I think it even applies to the world stage. There are some huge tangles and huge wounds going on. And I liked, what is it inside of me? What do I need to heal inside of me that might be reflected in that? And how can I hold more compassion and love for even my wounded parts and my parts that are angry or afraid or in trauma? And I think in a small way, just holding that in mind, or holding that I'm connected to that, and I can work on myself and work on this larger picture, can sometimes feel good.
You talked about parts work, which I've read up on and it's really interesting, but I haven't found somebody who practitioner of it to do it with me. Is there anybody local that does parts work that's good at it?
I would love to find this out.
So, like, are you talking about internal family systems? If you go on the website Psychology Today, it's a website that you can find every therapist, like in the whole country, and you'll just put in whatever your zip code, and it will have a drop down of every kind of therapy. There's like hundreds, and then there's internal family systems, and so it will highlight every person in the area who has available openings or who has a wait list that practices internal family systems.
Cool. Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Magic.
I've been really interested.
Yes, I am super jazzed. I've been looking at the website. I watched Richard Swartz's 7-minute video, and I'm really excited because I think he's really doing something very, very, very good and in the spirit of correctness. And I'm reading his book right now. And yeah, they have trainings and they're booked up into 2024. I'm thinking about maybe doing one of those trainings because it's a good one.
Well, I love the way you take a situation and it's so entangled and seems so big, but when you take it apart, you can do something. It's not just this,
I would love to work with an internal family systems therapist and do the chakra sequence and then have them do the therapy. And that way, if you're clearing that first level of the field and you have stuff coming up from your childhood or from your family of origin, and you're working on the second chakra and you have stuff that comes up that from your partner or ex-partners, and then you're working on that third chakra and you have things come up over your self-worth and your ability to really accomplish what you want to in the world, then you have that therapist that can do that parts work and find out who the managers are and talk to the managers, talk to the firefighters, and come and unburden that exile. When you unburden that exile, you have clients that they stop cutting, they stop binging, they can transform, and I love it because he's no bad parts, no bad parts. And that's why I included this in my lecture because just like clearing the energy field, it's like a universal thing. We all have this rainbow. We all have this level inside of us, and we can clear that. And we can clear that. And we can also talk to each person their own intricate, their own individual situation, and there are ways that we can make peace. Mm-hmm. We make peace with these warring parts, and by making peace and showing compassion and saying, hey, I honor what you're doing. I'm going to put you in charge. What do you want? Is it okay if I do this? Mm-hmm. That's how they're approaching. A client of mine who tried out the new psychedelic therapy said that the person who facilitated her therapy was trained in IFS. And that makes a lot of sense because if someone is going into a very deep psychedelic experience and they would want someone who could navigate that without becoming defensive or triggering.
Yeah, piggybacking on what you were said of the finding the live point, so to speak, right? So there's the live point, and then there's also the two-dimensional, textbook point location. So when you're doing the chakra sequence, which one are you actually doing? Are you doing the textbook points?
Some of them are the textbook points. Let's see if I can quickly go back.
I mean with the specific location of each of those points, are you really getting them exactly where they're quote unquote supposed to be, or are you doing where you're feeling them? I'm curious what Mikila Sankey says about that.
Yes, so many of these points do correspond. Unfortunately, this is kind of blurry, but many of these points do correspond to actual textbook points, but some of them are extra points, which would be considered ashi. And he does have his own interpretation of Do 20. This would be the traditional location of Do 20, but when you do the crown, he sets it back. And I think that's because of the way that he is working with the energy lines going through the body. So that is a place where he's actually what do you say? He's differentiated. It's a little different than the textbook point, but it's very close. So you actually, in this sequence, the first point, So when doing the chakra sequence, the points have to be needled in a certain sequence and then removed in the opposite sequence. So yeah, it's usually, it goes, let me see, it goes, yeah, it's the first point, then on the right hand to the left and below and to the middle. And then you have to remove them in the opposite way. So, like for this one, you needle it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 when you remove it. And like on this one, I just go, you know, I find the top of the ASIS and I find L4 and then I go to L5 and then I start my sequence there and then I go from there. And yeah, oh, and he uses the outer shoe. So the inner shoe of the bladder meridian correspond to that organ directly, and the outer shoe correspond to the spirit of the organ. So he's needling the outer shoe of kidney, which is the je, or the will. So the kidney corresponds to the will. And then like this one, so yeah, all of these, okay, so here, solar plexus yang point. That is not a textbook point, but actually an extra point under C8. And then he's using the outer shoe of the liver, and the liver corresponds to the hoon, or the ethereal soul. And then the heart is the outer shoe of the heart points at C5. And then the throat starts, I think this is C7, under C7, and then the lung points, the outer lung points. Whoops, I did that again. Thank you. There's another sequence I like to needle starting at I'm saying the wrong thing, that C5. You can needle the tree of life there, and that provides a deeper, another opening of the throat chakra. And then I think most of these are extra points, but there is yin tong, and then it's shishin chong, but a little pushed back. Shishin chong. It's funny. Any other questions, comments?
How does this compare to, for example, acupressure?
Right. So acupuncture is actually using fine needles or pins, and you're actually puncturing the skin. We use one-time use needles and then dispose of them and follow, precautions. Acupressure is where you actually press on the point. You could possibly acupressure these points, but it'd be a little difficult. Maybe this one, actually, they recommended to students to tap this point before a test. You can tap these points, and it kind of stimulates your brain. But doing acupressure on this sequence would be a little difficult. But I guess you could also, you could sort of go like that, kind of massage that area. The infinity loop, I could have included a picture. Have you heard of Alex Gray? And he makes these amazing pictures that show the musculature and the meridians and he has some amazing pictures of couples united in intimate relation, and he has the infinity loops. He has the infinity loops entwining through their hearts and their head, And I'm not sure if it's something that they've like measured per se, but it's truth. It's one of those capital T truths that and actually a loop is an infinity loop, but it's just been turned. And it happens when we unite our central channels. When we unite the central channels and fluid bond, we are connecting electrically, and what we're doing is we're making an exchange, a sacred exchange of energy, of DNA, and of psychic information. When I connect with my lover in the infinity loop, I am truly sharing all parts of myself. And that's why we talk about the foundation for the infinity loop, to have that respect and that trust and that communication, to really hold the energy of the power of that, and to be able to navigate. As human beings, we're all subject to that map of consciousness, to all those emotions. We're all going to experience that. And so how can we hold our partner in all their stages and all their states, and hold the infinity loop, and hold that infinity loop for our children and all the generations? It's thank you. In internal family systems therapy, he talks about legacy wounds, and that those come from generationally down the infinity loops.
Have you had clients that maybe like midway through some kind of session, they become overwhelmed almost from too much release or clearing or what have you?
I haven't had clients get overwhelmed within a session, but I have had clients experience very powerful clearing in between sessions. And they'll come and they'll report that, like the one woman who was clearing of the relationship, she came in and she was going through a breakup, and she was also experiencing some things with her family. And so that's why I recommend that people have support when they're receiving the chakra sequences, that they have the support of a therapist or someone who is actually trained to psychologically process those things. Yes.
I wanted to give one more anecdote just because Heather and I have been talking about this model for a little while now. And I'm young, so I don't have like too many cycles per se that I've had to clear or repair. But I have found one cycle within a relationship that this model has really helped me with. And it has to do with like before getting into an intimate relationship, having that level of awareness to do the 4 directions, and that way, and also the communication as well. That way, when instead of having to clear it later on and like do the repair, I'm going into it with curiosity and exploration, but also having that bubble and that groundedness and having cleared my energy. Like it's really crazy how powerful that imagination is doing those 4 like really, really simple just imagining those pieces. And I feel that I've been able to clear some cycles of getting attached too quickly through intimate physical interaction with someone who's not on my same kind of frequency, if that makes sense. Like I'm grounded in who I am and where I'm at in that moment. That way, when we are connecting, their energy isn't necessarily like overtaking my body, my spirit. But but we can still have exploration and curiosity. So I just kind of wanted to bring that in. It really honestly has changed a lot with not just intimate relationships, but also just like my day-to-day interactions with people and getting massage, getting energy work. So I am so grateful for you for this model.
Yay! All right, thank you so much for your attention, for your questions, your comments.